Take at least one cold shower daily. Eat no candy or granola bars. Do not watch any TV, Netflix, or movies. Read the Bible each day. Conduct intermittent fasting from 8 p.m. to 12 p.m. daily. Meditate for 20 minutes daily. Stretch or do yoga for 20 minutes daily. Remove myself completely from social media except for business purposes. Wake up at or before 6:30 daily. Do not drink any alcoholic beverages. Do not drink any caffeinated beverages. Journal daily. Do not play any video games. 10,000 steps daily. Pray twice daily for at least 5 minutes each time. So a few months ago I had a crazy idea. I saw these YouTubers like Matt Diavella, Nathaniel Drew, these people publishing these 30-day experiments. Not only had I noticed these 30-day challenges, but also millions of other people had noticed them as well. I realized there had to be something to this, and I decided that I wanted to do my own 30-day challenge as well. What? I said to myself, yes, if I tried to do all of them at the same time. So this video will be broken down into 4 parts. The disclaimer, the habit hacks, the process, and my favorite parts / what I learned. So number 1 is the disclaimer. I already had quite a few of these habits in place before I started. Some of them just needed some fine tuning, but some of them I had literally never had an issue with. For example, I never watched TV, and the last time I watched Netflix before this challenge I think was in high school. It's just not my personal vice. I had already been doing intermittent fasting for about 9 months, but that was the one I kind of had to fine tune. I wasn't as strict as I was during the 30 days. I like waking up early. I'm usually up between 6:30 and 7 anyway. I have never had alcohol in my entire life, and I don't plan to. I never drink caffeine. I don't drink coffee for religious reasons, and I never play video games. Okay, so before you click out of the video, don't be disappointed in me. I thought it would be helpful for a lot of people to understand that there really are people that live their lives this way, and that you don't have to be a slave to some of the things that you're a slave to right now. So part number 2, the habit hacks. This is the part that I totally nerd out on. I knew if I wanted to pull this off, I needed to do what any self-respecting James Clear / Atomic Habits fangirl would do, which is create a habit contract. So I drafted up a habit contract and I sent it to one of my best friends who read it and signed it. I was bound to him for the next 28 days to do all of these things. If I messed up at all beyond 2 days on some of them that I could use as cheat days, I would have to pay him $1,000. So that was step number 1. Step number 2 was to remove any possibility of failure when it came to the social media one. So what I did is I called up another one of my friends and I asked her to change my Instagram password. That's like the platform that sucks the most time for me for sure. So I couldn't even log into Instagram if I wanted to. I also have a previously installed Chrome extension called Newsfeed Eradicator that makes sure I don't even have a Facebook newsfeed, so that really wasn't a problem at all for me. I would have just gotten rid of Facebook completely, but that's where I do my work, so I need that account. Those are really the only 2 social media outlets that I use. Step number 3 was a tracking system. I just put all of the goals in a Google Sheet, and then I had to mark every day. I got a green box if I did it. I got a blank box if I didn't do it. And that just helped me to keep track of everything and make sure everything was top of mind. Step number 4 was habit grouping / habit stacking. Again, borrowing an amazing idea from James Clear and his book Atomic Habits. Habit grouping refers to putting a habit that you currently have with a habit that you'd like to have, or a habit you like with a habit that you don't like. So what I did for this is I knew that every day I already read, that was in my daily schedule. That's something I already do, so I decided to group stretching with that. So I would read and stretch at the same time, which maybe I'll put some B-roll here of me doing that, but it's not as weird as it sounds. So that's habit grouping. Habit stacking refers to using your old habit as the cue for your new habit if you can't do them at the same time. So for example, you'd say, when I wake up, then I will meditate. Once I meditate, then I will stretch and read. And this really helped me just to solidify all of those and kind of like write them out and have a plan in my head of when I was going to do the new habit. So step number 5 was giving myself just enough wiggle room so that if I missed a day or 2, I wouldn't lose my $1,000 and I wouldn't give up on everything. I think this was really smart of me, and I honestly am super glad that I did it, because there were 2 days where I slept in and it was so nice. It's almost like, you know, when you do it every single day, you don't realize what a luxury that is and how amazing it is. So when you stop doing it and then you do it, you enjoy it even more. And step 6 was social shaming. Social accountability, I guess. I just posted on all of my social media like, hey, this is what I'm doing for the next 30 days. I'd love your support. If you want to do any of them with me, I'm happy to talk about it with you. And then I told my roommates, I told my family, so that people were asking me about it during the challenge, which also helped solidify the idea that I was going to do it. Okay, so the stage was set, but would I be able to achieve my goal? We're going to check that out in the next part, the process. So I've broken it down into kind of 4 parts of building a new habit. Number 1 is the tightrope stage. Number 2 is the honeymoon phase. Number 3 is the forgetfulness phase. And number 4 is the safety net. So let's talk about what each of those mean. The tightrope phase refers to those first few steps out on the tightrope. You know, the first few days when you're trying a new habit, it's pretty easy to do. It doesn't take that much extra effort. You're like, oh, can I do this? Walking over the tightrope. And those first few days are pretty easy, but it's a little bit, scary maybe, because you want to make sure that you do it right and you make it to the other end of the tightrope. So stage number 2 is the honeymoon phase, which is probably between days like 3 and 10. This is where it seems like you can't fail. You're doing super awesome. You're like, man, I am so amazing. And that's when stage number 3 comes, which is the forgetfulness stage, or it could also be known as the rationalization phase. Phase? When you start to say, oh, this isn't really that important. I can start slacking off just a little bit. Or you forget to do your habit, and if you miss more than 2 or 3 days, you're just like, oh, it wasn't that helpful anyway. For me, this happened at about day 14 when I started taking some of my cheat days and eating into that wiggle room a little bit. And then number 4 is the safety net phase. This is where the habit hacks really start to come into play. It's interesting because you set them up like 2 weeks before you need them. When your motivation is low, you're not feeling very disciplined, this is when the things that you've set up earlier when you were feeling motivated and disciplined will help you through that area. For example, I forgot 2 days of Bible study. I think one was probably around day 13, and then again on like day 17. I was like, man, I have another 13 days, and if I miss another day, I owe my friend $1,000. If I hadn't set up that habit contract before, there's no way I would have continued with that goal. I would have just kept forgetting it. It wouldn't have been that important to me. And then I would have forgotten, and I wouldn't be making this video right now. Same thing with the social media, changing of the password. I totally would have logged into Instagram because I would have given up on my social media fast, but I literally couldn't. I told my friend during the period when I was feeling motivated and disciplined, do not under any circumstances give me the password to my Instagram account. And so I knew that I couldn't even ask her for it. I knew it was locked out. And so I saved myself from myself in that way. And that's why I call this the safety net phase, because even though you might fall off the tightrope, there's something saving you there from falling all the way down to the ground. So that was the process. And now I'm going to talk about my 3 favorite things that I learned from this experience. Number 1 is that it helped me to solidify habits that I had wanted to do for a long time but had never gotten around to. For example, meditation and Bible study are 2 things that I've been meaning to do. I've just always wanted to get around to it and doing it every single day, but I was, for whatever reason, never able to get into the habit. I think this is where that 21-day rule comes into play, where they say it takes 21 days to build a habit. Because if there's something that you actually do want to do and you can find a way to habit stack it or put it into your routine somewhere that makes sense, and you do it for long enough, you're gonna keep doing it. Because I formalized the process a little bit and I had some skin in the game, like I was gonna lose $1,000 if I didn't do these things, it really helped me to incorporate those into my daily schedule, and I'm still doing them every day now. In addition to the habit contract, what really helped me solidify these habits, now that I don't have any of that outside motivation, is that I attached it to something in my schedule. I wake up every day, so immediately after I wake up, I meditate. So I think it has a little bit to do with putting it into your schedule, but it also has it to do with doing it for long enough that you actually see the benefit. I feel so much different when I meditate, but it took me a while to get to the point where I had ingrained it and I felt like it was worth it to do it every day. Okay, so the second thing I learned from this that was honestly probably my favorite thing, this experience taught me to buy myself space. And you might think that buying myself space comes from the social media goal, but it actually came from the goal to do 10,000 steps daily. I always kind of made fun of people that counted their steps. Like my dad does it, and then he'll like shake his phone. If he forgot to bring his phone on a walk, he'll shake it until he gets those steps because he wants it to get counted. I just thought it was kind of dumb. I don't think steps are that important, but I wanted some sort of physical activity to be part of this challenge, but the gyms were closed. So I included 10,000 steps. I just thought, what the heck, I'll throw it in there. And by the way, I track my steps on this Aura ring. You can see that. I hate bracelets and like watches and stuff like that, so this works a lot better for me. So within a few days of having this goal, I realized that in order for me to reach it, I had to either go on 2 walks around my neighborhood or go on like a 3-mile run. The walks is what I mostly did. I really like weightlifting, so when the gyms opened back up in my area, I would go weightlift, but then I would also have to go on 1 or 2 walks a day to make sure that I was getting my steps in. During this time, I also read a book by Ryan Holiday called Stillness is the Key, and he talks about walking in such an amazing way. I had to share his words. He talks about how there are a lot of physical benefits to walking, like it increases blood flow to the brain, all of these different things. But this is the quote that really got me. This isn't about burning calories or getting your heart rate up. On the contrary, it's not about anything. It is instead just a manifestation, an embodiment of the concepts of presence, of detachment, of emptying the mind, of noticing and appreciating the beauty of the world around you. Walk away from the thoughts that need to be walked away from. Walk toward the ones that have now appeared. That book is amazing. Honestly, my favorite book of 2020 so far. And one of my favorite chapters from it is the one about walking. Over this month, I realized that I use work and social media as forms of escapism. And when I finished my lunch, I just didn't have anything to do. So I'd go sit down and get on social media for 30 minutes. But instead of doing that, I decided to go on a walk. And it is amazing the amount of clarity and purpose and space that this bought me, simply by going on a walk around my neighborhood. And so I noticed when I would go on these walks, I'd come back and I was just much more centered on my work. I was more present with the people I was with. Taking that time for myself and putting in a little bit of mild exercise really helped improve every other aspect of my life. This was hands down my favorite part of this experience. So the third thing I gained from this experience and what I loved about it is that I felt so much healthier not being on sweets and foregoing granola bars. So granola bars are kind of like my personal vice, but what both of these things have is simple carbohydrates, which causes inflammation in your body. So when you're inflamed, then you can have brain fog. It manifests itself in a lot of different ways with a lot of different people, but for me, I feel very like brain foggy, like I can't focus on my work and I just want to go lay down. So when I cut these things out of my diet, I was much more productive throughout the day. I just had a clearer mind and I was enjoying my life more. And it's interesting because this creates a feedback loop where if you eat a clean diet, then you feel better. And when you feel better, you continue eating a clean diet and then it goes like this. But it also works the opposite way as well. If you eat poorly, then you have a lot of brain fog and you don't realize that you have it because of what you ate. And then you just keep eating more of that and it gets worse and worse and worse. I think this is at the root cause of a lot of social sleepwalking, which is really interesting. To think about that the foods we're eating are kind of controlling us. If you don't control your diet will control you. A lot of you might be wondering at this point, what's the resolution? Are you continuing to do a lot of these things or did you just give up? Was it like a binge of really good habits and now you've just given up on everything? And I'm glad you asked. I'd like to address those questions. So this is what I've noticed. It's been about a week and a half since I finished the challenge. So the habits that I've kept up pretty much every day are 10,000 steps, journaling every day, meditation, and Bible study. I love these ones and I'm going to continue to do them in the future. The one that I've totally rebounded on is sweets and candy bars, actually. I went on vacation over the weekend and I just binged. It was so bad. And I think I gained all the weight that I lost over the 30 months just in that weekend. I'm still trying to figure out how to get myself to stick to a really long-term, like 95% clean diet. All the rest of the things are kind of in the middle, except the ones that I just never do anyway. I think what I've learned from the habits that I've given up is something that I heard as a teenager. It's easier to do the right thing 100% of the time than 90% of the time. And basically what that means is once you make an exception once, it's easy just to see everything as an extenuating circumstance and continue to make those exceptions over and over again. And pretty soon doing the right thing 90% of the time becomes doing the right thing 20% of the time. This is a little at odds at what I said earlier about having wiggle room, but I think both of them have merit and it just depends on where you're applying the principle, whether you need to give yourself some wiggle room or whether you need to give yourself no wiggle room. But this experience has definitely helped me see that I make way more exceptions than I should, and I'm kind of a hypocrite when it comes to especially eating healthy. Like, I think I eat so healthy, and then immediately after I don't have to pay attention to eating candy or granola bars, I just totally go off the deep end and eat as much as I can. So anyways, still trying to figure out how to fix this. I'll let you know what I come up with. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you to do something similar in your life or change a habit. Apply one of the habit hacking formulas that I talked about, or buy and read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, link in the description. If you do, I would love to hear from you on social media. The links are below for you to follow and DM me. Feel free to do so, and I will try to get back to as many people as possible. Thank you so much again for watching, and leave your comments below with any questions or thoughts about this video. I really welcome the feedback, and I will see you in the next one.